Oi. Hello. 1, 2. All right. Welcome back. As the timekeeper is walking in, welcome back. All right, so we're going to hear the results from the judges. Just a reminder on how we're going to proceed. The winner of debate round 1 will face the winner of debate round 2. The winner of debate round 3 will face the runner-up of debate rounds 1, 2, or 3, depending on who is the highest. And then, the final will be between the winners of the semifinals. All right, so let me invite Dr. Patricia Machawera, the Chief Judge, right, to come and, the Chief Justice, to come and announce the winners.
So let me say congratulations to our young people. You really, really gave us an interesting morning. Let's clap for ourselves. You gave us a tough time with the judging. For the first round, the winner, out of a possible 190 points, our winner was Zimbabwe with 152. Followed by Eswatini. Eswatini had 146. For round 2, our winner was South Africa with 159 points, followed by Botswana with 153 points. For the third round, the winner was Zambia with 154 points, followed by Uganda with 147 points. Over to you, MC.
All right, thank you. Let's give them a round of applause again for the job well done. So among those that came second, the runner-ups from all the rounds, Botswana scored the highest with 153. In that case, Botswana will debate in the semi-final 2. So this is how we'll proceed. The semi-final 1 will be between Zimbabwe, you will be proposing, and South Africa, you will be opposing to the motion. Semi-round 1. And then semi-round 2, Zambia, you will be proposing, and Botswana, you will be opposing, semi-round 2. I hope that's clear. We had asked you to prepare in advance, just in case you win, so we'll give you only 5 minutes to, solidify your preparations, and then we start.
You know this girl. You've seen her before, playing in the street with friends, buying vegetables at the market, walking to school, She is any one of more than 360 million adolescents and young people living in sub-Saharan Africa. Like any other young person, she has the right to grow up safe and healthy. Yet many adolescent girls and boys in sub-Saharan Africa lack the basic knowledge and skills they need to pursue healthy relationships and protect themselves. This can affect their lives and futures.
Right after high school, I got pregnant.
I did not know what was happening with me.
Sub-Saharan Africa has the highest rate of teenage pregnancies in the world. Over 50% of young women aged 15 to 19 don't know when in their menstrual cycle they are most likely to become pregnant. And 6 out of 10 adolescents lack basic knowledge about HIV.
How do we actually empower people with skills and information so that they can make informed choices?
By learning about their bodies and relationships in the classroom, and by having access to sexual and reproductive health services adapted to their needs, adolescent girls and boys can be better prepared to make healthier decisions. That's why UNESCO's O3 and O3 Plus program is supporting countries to empower adolescents and young people with accurate knowledge about their health and well-being. Developed in collaboration with experts, parents, religious and traditional leaders, and young people themselves, the O3 program is giving adolescents in sub-Saharan Africa a chance to gain knowledge and skills that can protect them from HIV, early and unintended pregnancy, and gender-based violence. So far, 34 million young people across sub-Saharan Africa have received accurate information about their health and well-being from 400,000 trained teachers, equipped with transformative values, accurate knowledge, and a learner-centered approach. These teachers have also become role models for healthier social and gender relations.
The men's programs are discussing a number of issues, including how we must treat women as human beings, how young boys must respect young girls.
But this important work can't just be left to the classroom. Through the O3 programs, 19 countries are implementing parent-child communication programs, and thousands of parents are having open and honest conversations with their children about their health and well-being, strengthening trust and support within families.
I have 2 girls, so if I don't want to talk about these matters, I'll be directly affected.
Communities play a key role too, especially when harmful gender norms, teenage pregnancy, early and child marriage, and female genital mutilation continue to threaten girls' education and health.
If we have proper policies, but we don't have the families involved, the community and the education sector involved, the ecosystem will not be complete.
Through the O3 program, 42 million community members have been engaged on work around keeping girls in school.
We need to do a lot of creating awareness to the community on the girl child.
When communities come together to create a shared vision that recognizes the dignity of all members of society, regardless of gender or age, change is possible. And young people are becoming change makers themselves, challenging harmful norms and shaping new narratives.
I urge families to support girl children if they go through this.
The O3 program is protecting the future of this girl and helping her make informed decisions, stay in school, and thrive. Together, we are transforming the lives of young people across sub-Saharan Africa. Stand with us so we can do even more for young people everywhere.
Amir is 10 and attends school in the Middle East. Instead of playing sports like the other boys, he prefers acting and writing poetry. Some of the boys laugh at him, telling him he's skinny and calling him a sissy. Things get worse when one of them picks on him. Soon, everyone is picking on him. Amir's teacher tells him it's a normal part of growing up. His father tells him to grow up and be a man. Around the world, 1 out of every 3 students is bullied by their peers. In many regions, physical bullying is the most common type of bullying, with 16% of bullied children saying they have been hit, kicked, shoved around, or locked in rooms. Far away, in Europe, 13-year-old Rani is experiencing a different kind of bullying. She recently moved there from Asia with her family. It feels as if her world has been turned upside down. School is taught in a language she doesn't understand, and she hasn't made any friends. Things can't get any worse until someone posts a hurtful text about her on social media, telling her to go back to her own country. The cyberbullying gets worse. Ethnicity, nationality, or color is the second most common reason for bullying. The most common reason is physical appearance. 16-year-old Kaya in Southern Africa is bullied for the way she looks every day. Her parents are poor and can't afford to buy her shoes or a new uniform. Every day she walks kilometers to get to school. It's not easy, but her dream of being a doctor helps her to stay motivated. Lately, some of the boys from her school have been making life difficult. They wait for her along the path, crowding around her and making rude comments about the way she looks. When she tells them to leave her alone, they just laugh. Over 15% of bullied students say they were made fun of because of how their face or body looks. Many students, especially girls, experience violence based on their gender in and around school. As bullying continues, many victims don't know who to turn to and become isolated and depressed. They find it difficult to concentrate during.
Online, can you hear us? We're going to go into the semi-finals. The first round is between Zimbabwe as the proposing side and South Africa as the opposing side. This house believes that life skills or sexuality education, including content on mental health, bullying, and online safety, should be a mandatory part of the curriculum in order to combat bullying and promote mental health. I'll invite the first speaker from the proposing side to take the floor. Zimbabwe.
Okay, thank you. This is Team Zimbabwe, and I am Nyasha Makono, and I am proposing that life skills are an essential part to the curriculum for education. So I strongly propose that education is a key, and it is a socialization institution itself. And so life skills, sexuality education, including mental health, bullying, and online safety should be a mandatory part to the curriculum. Why? Because moving with the theme of this year, no place for fear. A person who is equipped with life skills is bound not to fall prey to bullying simply because they're equipped with life skills. And if we consider the employment sector worldwide, they are mostly relying on life skills because each and every day something new is born into the world that involves technology, therefore it requires life skills. So life skills improve life in the sense that not only academics are needed for a person to succeed, but also life skills are essential. And if we also look at the point where life skills also bring the sector of guidance and counseling within schools. This promotes good mental health and combats bullying because mental health is considered to be a result of bullying. Therefore, if a person has life skills, they cannot fall prey to bullying because they are able to retaliate and act accordingly using the life skills that they have. We can also consider that life skills help us to prepare and adapt to new things, you see, because if there's something new and you actually don't know how to use it, you don't have the life skill on how to use and utilize these things. And life skills also help in the adequate use of resources.
POI, may the speaker pause? POI from South Africa.
Does Team Zimbabwe like or value the Netflix program Sex Education? If they do, why?
Okay,
Continue.
We value sex education because it raises the sense of toleration, right? You can easily embrace safety because once you actually get the awareness on the coincidences of harassing other people sexually, then you are able to adapt to the society and you're able to embrace safety. So we are able to embrace sex education, and we appreciate that Netflix program. So as I was saying,
1 minute.
Life skills, they actually they should be part of the curriculum because if we actually consider the education 5.0, it actually adapts and embraces life skills, because it's not only academic knowledge that we need for us to succeed in life, but we also need practical skills. And we can also talk of drug and substance abuse. Children nowadays are abusing drugs, so if they have life skills, they can easily seek employment instead of adapting to drugs and abusing substances. So life skills are necessary. Then if we consider that the Day of the African Child, right, is commemorated by the UNICEF, especially to embrace the rights of children, including the rights of education, quality education, according to the SDG 4, which states that every child has the right to quality education. Thank you.
Your time is up. Thank you. I invite the first speaker from the opposing delegation.
Be beginning my speech in 3, 2, panel. The reason why I don't do well in Afrikaans is because I am simply not interested in it. Panel, we need to understand the interest that children have towards the subjects that they are learning at school, because when you have interest in a subject, you are most likely, or you are bound to do well in it. Cool, let's get into some refutations on what proposition tells us. They tell us that no, they're most likely not going to be bound to prey on things such as substance abuse, drug abuse, and they're going to have quality education, and they're going to have education about sexual health, and how that's just something that is benefactor, right, towards the society. What is our response? Our response is just to tell you that the same outcomes that they have on their side of the house also exist on our side of the house. We believe that this is very symmetric. When you literally have on our side of the house, we still have education systems about drug abuse. We still have education systems about the quality of sexual education. Panel, what they needed to prove then is to show us the link between making something compulsory and how that being compulsory is most likely going to combat against what the mental health or the bullying that is going to exist within that particular space. Cool. Let me get into my argumentation on why there's just inherently a lack of link within propositions. I'll take your POI.
Okay, so you have mentioned that we have to actually evaluate and give the accuracy on why it should be mandatory. Okay, at home there's no curriculum, right? And we understand that parents play a crucial role in educating their children on good morals. But if we don't send children to school and if they don't have these life skills as a mandatory thing in their curriculum, then where else can they get it from? Where else? There's no curriculum at home. Even
cool. The reason why we tell you that these educations already exist is because LO is already accessible as a subject. They do not listen to our point. We didn't talk about parents. We talked about the education system and how there's already access towards LO as a subject. They just needed to talk to us why LO, it being compulsory with the contents that the motion already told us, why that would combat bullying itself. They did not do that, thus they lose. Cool. We already told you there's a lack of link within their own policy. This is to say that there's a lack of link between a compulsory curriculum and social cohesion. We already tell you that if someone is not interested in a subject, they're most likely not going to do well. People are most likely going to pass LO for the reason of passing. They're not going to pass LO because they want to do well within being a psychologist. We believe that if you're going to make it compulsory, you're most likely going to force people to do LO, and people just generally don't care about LO, which means that we are not going to create better psychologists. We are just going to create a very useless curriculum itself. Cool. We already tell you that on our side of the house, we already have choice in accessible. This is to say we need to give time to LO as much time as we give to mathematics or physics. The reason why a lot of people pass physics or pass mathematics is because we give them that time to actually practice that curriculum on the highest level. When we do the same thing to LO, we are most likely going to have better psychologists in and of itself. On our side of the house, we already told to you why on our side of the house we are most likely going to make students buy into our system because they've already something that they like. If they like something, they're most likely going to fall into that particular space.
Thank you so much, South Africa. And now we go back to Zimbabwe with the second speaker from the proposing delegation.
Thank you. Say, my name is Lemo Kanengoni and I am the second speaker for Zimbabwe. Now, as she has stated before, she stated that life skills are very necessary for the development of a country. Now, I have something that I need to note. If a country is developed, the country next to it will be developed. So where am I going with this? I am simply saying that the development of one country is the development of another country. Now, moving on to my first point, we have the issue on mental health. Now, as we all know, a healthy mind is a healthy body. A healthy mind is a productive body. Now, when one has a productive mind, he or she is able to go into school and actually learn more things in order for them to succeed. But now, if you go to school without a healthy mind, you are just wasting, let's say, around 10 years of your life going to school and just sitting in class because your mind is not in the right state. Moving on, we also have the issue that life skills are actually very useful, because if you combine life skills with the subject that you talked about, mathematics, imagine now mathematics helps you to be able to think real quick and real fast. Now imagine if I am able to actually work with my hands with mathematics combined in it, I'll be a force to be reckoned with in society. Moving on, we also have the issue that in schools we lack stress coping mechanisms. Now, how can one be able to cope with stress? You can be able to cope with stress when you have a right mental state. Now, to get a mental state, you have to be able to know what is it to be in a mental state. Meaning to say that mental health content in schools should be allowed in order for us to move forward as a region. Then we also move on to the fact of
POI from South Africa accepted.
We get why ALO has so many, why life skills has so many benefits, but you don't actually show to us why it should be mandatory.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for supporting me in your POI. You say that LO has a lot of benefits. Now, imagine those benefits with education. We are simply saying that what is the point of 10 years of your life with a piece of paper and for you just to be able to sit on the street? Life skill is the act of empowering a person to a changing and developing world. Now, if you are empowered to a developing and changing world, you're able to adapt. And when you're able to adapt, you are able to survive. Is your POI answered? Now, we also like to talk about the fact that you say that curriculum will be very useless. Yes, without life skills, curriculum will be very useless, because you just, as I alluded before, you've wasted time of your life without doing anything productive. If I have a practical subject, let's say like agriculture, I may be able to actually go and farm for something for my country, and I'll be able to feed myself and my country in the process. I thank you.
Thank you, Zimbabwe. Back to South Africa, opposing.
One, certainly Zimbabwe deserves to lose and go home because they actually don't engage with one question and one question only. Why should we make life skills mandatory and that makes them lose from the get-go? So now, let me show you why we deserve to win this debate automatically. One, they don't show to us. We actually learn life skills, but there's no benefit because that same person is actually going to do sexual intercourse without wearing a condom. Because they also learn LO. Making it mandatory won't actually help, but let me show you why our counter mechanism is actually going to be useful and is actually going to have long-term benefits. One, our counter mechanism here is at creating stricter laws. Two is give schools actually social workers. Now, on the point of strengthen stricter laws is to show to you that we strengthen the Educational Act. Two, that we also enhance anti-abuse laws, which then actually create some form of safety for these learners to have and some form of protection that these learners should have. Therefore, we actually have a benefit. Now, two, these social workers are actually going to help give...
What about of information?
POI accepted from Zimbabwe.
Thank you. So are you saying we should blame the curriculum for your own ignorance? moving on, we also know that we can include online safety and how life skills can help curb bullying in schools.
And okay, so now what he was trying to actually say is that I'm actually ignorant on their case and why I should actually not be listening to it. But let me tell you why they lose again, because they don't answer the question of the benefits of life skills being mandatory. Therefore, I think they're getting astray. Now the counter mechanism here is actually going to change the curriculum structure, meaning that learners who are interested in the subject can choose it, not it being mandatory, because my first speaker said that they're just going to pass it because they want to pass it. What we are trying to say is that making it a choice will actively help children to actually buy into it, because why? They're interested in it. Now, let me give a way up. One, making it mandatory is actually not going to help, because learners just want to pass it for the sake of passing it, and actually making it a choice is actually going to help enhance the people who want to be in it to actually be in it. Therefore, making our side more effective, because we want to progress learners into the careers that they want to choose that involve.
Time up. Thank you. The next speaker from the Zimbabwe delegation.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Bianca Beta, third speaker for Zimbabwe. So we believe that life skills and sexuality education should be a mandatory part of the curriculum in order to combat bullying and promote mental health. In 2015, the United Nations established SDGs, and among those SDGs, number 4, it talks about quality education. So if these life skills and sexuality education are among our curriculum, it can actually help us in strengthening quality education. And also, we believe that online safety should be a mandatory part of the curriculum in order to combat bullying and promote mental health. Because, for instance, if you are taught something and you are given advantages and disadvantages, you can actually know why you should do or why you must not engage in those things. So if we are taught about online safety, this can actually help us in decreasing cyberbullying, because you know some sites to avoid when you are using internet. And then we believe that mental health should be a mandatory part of the curriculum in order to combat bullying and promote mental health. Because also among the SDGs, number 3, it speaks about mental health and well-being. So if we are taught about mental health and well-being as part of our curriculum, this can actually help us in improving mental health and well-being as SDG. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zimbabwe. Back to South Africa with the third opposer.
Panel, Steve Harvey literally laughed at South Africa when we told him that we have life orientation as a compulsory subject. He told them that why is it that I have to grow up until I'm 7 and then people actually tell me how to live my life? What does this actually show you? It shows to you that in order for something to be compulsory, it needs to have something that is important for us. It needs to have something that is tangible and that can be seen universally, right? We think the reason why English is such a compulsory language across all boards is because so that we're able to debate with Zimbabwe in English, right? That's important because it shows to us the link between making something compulsory and the actual benefits outside. So there was basically a criteria that proposition had to fill. They needed to show to us why essentially we need to make something compulsory. And we think that the criteria for this, they need to make something compulsory when the outcomes are necessary and measurable. We think thus far they haven't done this. So cool. Why do they lose strategically even before I get to like rebuttal? Firstly, their failure to understand how education really works, right? I think in their world, they magically think that just because something is compulsory now means everyone is going to enjoy it, everybody is going to be more educated about safe sex. I don't think that this is something that's true, but we think more so when you make something compulsory, when you force kids to pass a subject that they themselves don't enjoy, you create resentment for that subject instead of actually getting the goal of educating individuals about this, right? But secondly, then let's let the POI that they asked Hosi within his second, where they tell him that should we blame the curriculum then for you engaging in unprotected intercourse? We think yes. Why? This is because the reason why the curriculum was set out in the first place is so that you are able to then be educated about these things. When you as an individual are unable to then comprehend this information enough to know that it is not good for you to be engaging with this, then we blame the curriculum because the curriculum isn't actually aiming to do what it was supposed to do, right? But cool. Let's get into this idea on prop. We think a proposition needs to understand that we know that there are benefits to this education, but we think that those benefits exist on our side, because on our side we tell you that we make it a choice for you to either take this life skills extra subject. We think that it's important to note that we still give them these advantages. We still give them this nuanceness in their education system. What they had to do specifically in order to win, they needed to show us why it was mandatory. We don't think that they've done that thus far. We don't think that they win, right? But lastly, then there's this idea that they bring up then about how there's a need for people to learn about these skills, because not everything is about academics, and we need to have a diverse nature of environment. We think that on our side we have better people who are more equipped to be psychologists. This is because when you opt into learning history, you're likely to be an A student who's going to be getting 80s because you're a person who wants to be a lawyer.
Thank you very much. We'll go now to the final speaker and summarizer from Zimbabwe, the proposing side.
Thank you very much. I'm Guardian Angel, the final speaker and summarizer from Zimbabwe. So first and foremost, let me clearly read our motion to us. It says this House believes that life skills, sexuality education, including content on mental health and bullying and online safety, should be a mandatory part of the curriculum in order to combat bullying and promote mental health. Number one, the speaker said she wanted evidence. When we are taught sexuality education in schools, UNICEF conducted a research and we have seen that the incidence rate of HIV, because we have been taught sexual reproductive health, has decreased to 0.47%, which clearly shows that this is mandatory in schools. And number two, what you are exposed to is what you become. The more I am exposed to something, the more I know it. Let's take, for instance, language. You clearly mentioned English. The more we are exposed to English in schools, the more we know English. So the more we are exposed to these things in school, the more we know it. And the first speaker also went on and said that this should be a compulsory subject, and nobody wants to do it if it's made a compulsory subject. Then the last speaker who just spoke went on to say that it should also be a compulsory subject. You go on to do it, which is creating a lot of confusion, giving us a bowl of dust and a handful of scrolling points. And we move on to SDG number 4. It talks of quality education. And when we look at quality education...
POI, please pause POI from South Africa.
If UNICEF was able to teach people about safe sex and there was an improvement, why can't they teach everyone else and stop wasting our time with putting it in the curriculum?
Okay, I said it's an universal research that was carried out. So when the incidence rate went to 0.47, it shows that that was the world, and it happened, and it's evidence that it is something which is there. And then we move on to SDG number 4. It talks of quality education. And when we are given quality education, you said the education is because we don't want it. When we speak of quality education 5.0 clearly states that when education is being given to us, it's given in a manner which makes us like it. The good book clearly says, be as wise as a serpent. So the way we conduct and give it, it's something that is going to make the children love it. And at the end of the day, we are going to have it. And we have clear and mentally stable people, as echoed by SDG number 3, which talks about mental health and well-being. And online safety should also be a major thing that is taught, because children are being bullied online, obviously we know it. And our motion and our theme for this day, it clearly states International Day Against Violence and Bullying at Schools, including cyberbullying. How do we curb this? We teach them. Education is a key to success. We clearly say it. With this, I thank you.
And finally, we go to South Africa with the final and summarize.
Okay, I will begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. Hello, panel. I am Sinai Shabalala. I'm from South Africa, and I'm standing here today to give you a summary of what has essentially been a dead debate. We have Zimbabwe, who has essentially been feeding unnecessary points to the already dead donkey that is our current education system. Whereas we value both benefits from both sides, and we value the fact that, yes, introducing this new curriculum might be beneficial. However, why are we making it mandatory? We've been continually asking Zimbabwe this question, to which they've given no response to. Because in order for Zimbabwe to truly win this debate, they need to give us a comparison as to why the mandatory aspect is actually improving the education system when it is currently failing in its very essence. Listen, panel, we are not talking regarding the benefits.
Not accepted.
Not in order. Thank you. And therefore, we don't see why it's compulsory. We give you clear benefits from our side of side proposition why choice is better than making it mandatory. With choice, we see better marks. We see better results. We see in the future, these learners that actually learn from the system when they are given the choice to learn actually produce much better marks because they're actually interested in the subject in itself, which then means that as they go out to be valuable members of society, as Zimbabwe says, they actually learn from what they're being taught, as opposed to it being mandatory. Our third speaker comes up here and tells you how this imposes a sense of retaliation. Students do not want to learn things that they're not interested in. So therefore, you're wasting your resources.
I accepted from Zimbabwe.
Okay, so you said we are feeding a dead donkey. So if you are feeding a dead donkey, why are you participating in this debate? And number 2, the reason why we are saying we have to make it a mandatory subject is because we want to create a certain keyword that hasn't been there before so that we can revitalize and awaken that dead donkey. Hence, it has to be a compulsory subject, and we teach the students how to maneuver and actually work with the coping world.
Okay, tell me this. What is better, reviving the already dead donkey, wasting your resources, or going to the alternative, stronger, strengthening horse? Tell me, which solution is actually better? Also, that went over time. Now, let me tell you this. Zimbabwe also tells us that the curriculum that we are buying into is actually us being ignorant. Let me tell you this. Are you blaming a learner for failing a subject that literally teaches you life when their interests do not align with that same subject? Our second speaker mentioned how other countries and other participants from other countries, such as Steve Harvey, laugh at the amusement that is our current education system. Because how can you fail life when you are being taught in its various forms, in its various ways as you go about your daily life? Now, let me tell you what results needed to be produced by both sides in this debate. 1, we need to prove how one side is actually combating bullying, which our side does better. Because not only are we forcing our government to implement stricter laws in a better education system with our counter mechanism, but we're also changing the curriculum structure. We force agencies like maybe UNESCO to actually work with our department in Concord to these actual schools, to actually send social workers to these schools to actually improve the work and education that is actually being there, rather than reviving the dead donkey. Remember, this side needs to actually prove who actually wins the debate based on which side is actually combating bullying and actually increasing education and support to mental health. Because remember, we've already addressed that students aren't listening in any instance. So why are you wasting resources? Zimbabwe comes up here. Zimbabwe comes up here with these solutions telling us that yes, it is mandatory because people don't have access. Yet in the same setup, they tell us that you can get these access to education from various sources. Another notable example being UNESCO. So what does this mean? This means that the debate is won based on which side has actually catered to the motion and actually looked at the world in a logical and pragmatic sense, that being our side. Buy into the side that is actually changing the education system for a much better route in the future, to one which students are able to actually learn and apply these things in our normal daily lives. That is the side that actually wins this debate, which is very apparent and clear from our get-up. I'd like to thank you.
Thank you very much to both Zimbabwe and South Africa for that very passionate debate. making it difficult for the judges to adjudicate. All right, we're going to move straight on and then we will score at the end. The second round of the semifinals between the proposers Zambia and the opposition Botswana. The government is saying this house believes that corporal punishment should be administered to all students who engage in bullying, including cyberbullying at school. The first speaker from the proposing side, from Zambia. Zambia, you're muted. Pause the time.
Good afternoon,
Press
House
the
of
mic.
Intellectuals.
Yes, start.
Testing.
Yes, go ahead.
Good afternoon, House of Intellectuals. Allow me to articulate the articulation that has already been articulated by the articulators and the motion quotes. This House believes that corporal punishment should be administered to all students who engage in bullying, including cyberbullying at school. End of quote. House of Intellectuals, allow me to pass my humble seniorities to the judges, to the Madam Chairperson, timekeeper, but due to time, all protocol be highly observed. House of Intellectuals, being the icebreaker, allow me to actually define the key words. Corporal punishment, any punishment in which physical force is used, cause some degree of pain. Administered, manage, and be responsible. Students, a person enrolled in a school or educational institution. Bullying, this is the aggressive behavior as to dominate their person. House of Intellectuals, for further clarification, you can check using the Oxford Dictionary. Now, moving on to my first point, which clearly talks about corporal punishment, once used properly, can actually be used as an example, which will actually help people to actually stop. House of Intellectuals, if an offender is actually punished for what they've done, they are given that corporal punishment. This will enable the other person who wanted to engage themselves into that to make sure that they don't do that. Due to the fact of corporal punishment, they will actually fear of them being punished, of them receiving the pain that their friend had received. And due to that, this will reduce the number of bullies in schools due to the fact that they will have fear, and this will actually give an advantage to those people who are victims of bullies, because they will no longer have that stress of telling themselves someone is going to bully them. They will know that no one is going to bully them due to the fact that the bullies have been given punishment. House of Intellectuals, moving on to my second point, which clearly talks about and House of Intellectuals, for further clarification, WW punishment resisted is where you can get the evidence from. House of Intellectuals, moving on to my second point. According to WW, verywellfamily.com, once corporal punishment is actually inflicted in a family, it is difficulty to actually stop because it will be in a circle. So House of Intellectuals, if corporal punishment is administered at home and at school, it will be like a circle, knowing that they're not supposed to do that. They will know that in as much as I try to bully my friend, there will be that pain that will be inflicted on me. And due to that pain, the child definitely won't want that pain to be inflicted on them. And yet they will make sure that they don't bully anyone or engage themselves into anything. And this will help reduce the number of crimes in schools and also at home. Due to the fact we all know when someone bullies a friend, they bully their friend emotionally and physically. This will enable us that this...
Time up.
I rest my case.
Thank you, timekeeper. All right, thank you so much. We'll invite the first speaker from the opposition.
Protocol observed, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Masama from Botswana, and we as a country oppose the motion that says that corporal punishment should be administered to all students who engage in bullying, including cyberbullying at schools. We believe that corporal punishment should not be administered to students who practice a distinctive pattern of repeatedly and deliberately humiliating others and an aggressive behavior involving a type of electronic communication intended to victimize a person. we believe that this method of punishing a person by inflicting pain on it is on that person's body is ineffective, as it does not teach this person or this child or the school-age children who absorbs a lot of things. For we all know that school-age children absorb things like a sponge. School-age children are sponges and they absorb. So us using violence to solve a problem that is caused by violence does not only just teach the children that violence is used to solve violence, to solve problems caused by violence. And like a famous well-known quote says, it says, an eye for an eye leaves the nation blind. So are we going to say that we're going to create this cycle of violence, as the first speaker has said, a cycle of violence around a child and teaching them that violence is the answer to every single problem that we face? And for a nation that stopped using corporal punishment 20 years ago, you surely have a lot to say. For we all know that corporal punishment is ineffective. It does not teach a child how to make better life choices in the future. It only teaches a child that you can use violence and just expect violence to be, and expect more violence in return for the violence that you have given. It does not teach children that a person should learn to communicate, and it does not teach a child that you are supposed to use other better, more effective methods of communicating, more effective methods of solving your problems, such as problem-solving skills. Are we saying that we're going to teach children, school-age children, like I have said, who absorb things like a sponge, to use violence every single time they face a problem?
Information, Mr. Chair.
Are we going to teach these children? Are we going to teach these children to continue using violence over and over and over again whenever they face a problem, just because they were taught that from their youth? And when we use corporal punishment at home and at school, we are in a way emotionally and physically abusing this child, thus violating their rights. So are we saying that we're going to put this child in a situation whereby they're not able to communicate because they're too scared that they might get corporal punishment because of them voicing their opinions, because they're too scared that they might be misunderstood, and then they will face...
Moderator, sir. Not around.
I rest my case.
Thank you so much for that. We will now go back to Zambia with the second speaker. Your time starts now.
My name is Leandro Nambela, and I am the second speaker of the proposing argument for the motion that my current speaker once stated, or protocol highly observed. Rebuttals. I am rebutting to the previous speaker's statement that when she said that corporal punishment is an effective method of discipline. Members of the House, I will tell you that corporal punishment is in fact one of the most effective methods of discipline and has been seen so in our various evidence, which we will show you in our continuous arguments. And the second rebuttal, corporal punishment isn't violence, it is discipline. Discipline is not abuse. Let's get it straight. First point, corporal punishment is the most effective and appropriate use of punishment for certain students when used in moderation. The negative effects of corporal punishment, which most critics cite, are only valid if corporal punishment is used in excess and inappropriately. Ladies and gentlemen, corporal punishment is discipline, not abuse. What they're explaining is abuse, and that is not what we are for. Second point, bad behavior has been on the increase in the classroom since corporal punishment was abolished, and I have evidence for this. According to the Telegraph newspaper of the UK, an article written by Graham Patton, an education editor, on the 26th of February 2009, it was stated that when 6,000 teachers were asked about the evolution of the classroom behavior since corporal punishment was abolished, 1 in every 5 stated that bad behavior in the classrooms have actually increased. And I think we can all agree that bullying is an example.
Point of information.
Bullying has been gotten more inner.
POI accepted. POI accepted from Botswana.
She misquoted my point. I said that corporal punishment is ineffective and is a short returnment. It does not teach a child how to make long-term decisions, but it teaches a child that it is a good way to use violence to solve your problems. Thank you.
On to my third point. Corporal punishment improves the lives of bullies. Corporal punishment actually attacks the 3 main aims of punishment, which is retribution, reformation, and deterration. It rebukes the victim. It actually reforms the bully and deters future bullies from doing the same thing. Fourth point, corporal punishment makes a direct link between behavior and its bad consequences. Ladies and gentlemen,
COI.
Most pupils
Not
do
accepted.
their consequences with their actions, unless in bad instances such as alcoholism and injuries that are due to bullying. Ladies and gentlemen, if corporal punishment is administered,
1 minute.
Prevented. Spare the rod and spoil the child. Once bitten, twice shy. These are all proverbs that strongly agree to our points. And with these short but convincing and not confusing points, I rest my case.
Thank you so much to Zambia. Now we go back to the opposers.
Mr. Speaker of the House at Large, protocol is highly observed. My name is Khaleta Masalisatedi and I am from Botswana, and my team and I will be opposing the motion that states that this House believes that corporal punishment should be administered to all students who engage in bullying, including cyberbullying at school. Mr. Speaker, let's be clear. The government's proposed solutions to bullying is not misguided. It is dangerous. It's not only misguided, it is dangerous. Corporal punishment does not solve the problem of bullying, but it perpetuates the cycle of violence, like my first speaker has already saying. By endorsing this motion, the government is not only ignoring the evidence, but endangering our children. Listen, don't get my team and I wrong. We know this because we've seen the effect of corporal punishment firsthand. Remember that my country is still one of the small countries that still use corporal punishment. If I'm allowed to excuse the fact that our Minister of Education has released a parliamentary bill to cancel corporal punishment. I've seen the trauma it causes and the long-term damages it does to children's mental health. And like my first speaker has said before, for a country that has cancelled corporal punishment in 2003, you sure have a lot to say. You should give a statement.
POI from Zambia accepted. May the speaker pause?
Members of this auditorium, if the current speaker stated that corporal punishment is actually dangerous, corporal punishment was once abolished in Kenya, but the Kenyans actually petitioned for it to be abolished. Why? Because they know it is right, safe, and actually acts as self-discipline to the bullies. This is why in our olden days, corporal punishment was at low percentages, and now that corporal punishment is trying to be abolished, it's actually going to higher levels. Let's bring back corporal punishment so that we can actually reduce bullying and completely end it.
Your time is up. Back to the opposers.
I'll go back to my point where I said that for a country that has abolished corporal punishment in 2003, you sure have a lot to say. Do not tell me about Kenya. Tell me about your country. Tell me why your country abolished corporal punishment, and tell me why your country is not bringing back corporal punishment. Don't tell me about the re-abolishment of corporal punishment. And continuing, like I was saying, there is a growing body of research that shows that corporal punishment is not an effective deterrent of bullying. Instead, it can actually lead to increased aggression and violence among students. Studies have found that students are subjected to corporal punishment are more likely to have mental issues such as anxiety and depression. Let's talk about the research on the effects of corporal punishment on aggression. A meta-analysis of 62 studies published in the journal Child Development in 2011 found that students who are subjected to corporal punishment are more likely to engage in antisocial aggressive behavior. In fact, the more students are more likely the more students are subjected to corporal punishment, the more likely they are to become aggressive. The research suggests that is because corporal punishment models aggressive behavior and undermines the skills of development of pro-social skills. And I'd like to emphasize that my country still uses corporal punishment, and like I said, we do see the effects of corporal punishment. It has no improvement. In my country, corporal punishment is used, but students still see that as popularity, as fame. When a student gets punished for doing something, it makes them more famous and get more friends in school. So it is ineffective in this case. Instead, my team and I are saying that we should come up with solutions or better methods to use instead of using corporal punishment, which, like I stated, can lead to mental situations and can, like my first speaker has already stated, that it encourages children to know that violence is solved by violence. So like that, my team and I stand firm and disagree with the motion that corporal punishment should be administered to all students who engage in bullying.
Time up. We'll go back to the proposers. Zambia.
Good afternoon, distinguished members of this auditorium. Before you hear again is Martha Chibwe-Chapuswike, coming from the Zambian team, strongly proposing to the motion that states as articulate. Corporal punishment should be administered to all students who engage in bullying, including cyberbullying at school. End of articulation. Corporal punishment should in fact be administered in schools because cyberbullying are becoming excessive. We need to punish them using corporal punishments, reasons being, firstly, it is a simple and quick form of punishment. It can be administered by any authority figure. Once used, it is effective and fast. These students will stop cyberbullying and we can put an end to it. Secondly, corporal punishment serves as a deterrent. Pain inflicted on a student Pain inflicted on a student who is engaging in cyberbullying. Pain inflicted on a student who is engaging in cyberbullying will prevent reoccurrence of the action committed. This will stop bullying and cyberbullying in schools and everywhere else. Coming to my next point, corporal punishment is reformative. It is meant to reform the offender. Once he is beaten or once he is shown or inflicted pain or pain is inflicted on him, he will stop, he will reform, he will change, he will realize the effects it has on the person that he offended and himself. Members of this auditorium, moving to my next point, use of corporal punishment with moderation. It is meant to...
POI accepted from Botswana.
Please explain why people are sent to customary courts, given strokes by the authorities there, and still leave there the same way. Please explain that.
As I was saying, I am saying when it is not used excessively, there are simple punishments that can reform an offender. We're not saying we're supposed to shock them or beat them to the point where they are severely hurt. We are saying we're supposed to beat them to the point where they understand that it is wrong. Moving to my last and final point. Corporal punishment creates a shock factor. This will make offenders realize that the action is wrong. It is hurting their environments and also the economy and the environments they're in. It is not only affecting the people they are bullying or cyberbullying, but themselves too. Members of this auditorium, corporal punishment is important. It is the most effective way of discipline and changing an offender or a person engaging in cyberbullying or bullying. With these two but convincing points, I rest my case.
Thank you, Zambia. Thank you so much. Botswana.
Good morning, honorable members of this house. I greet you all. Protocol is highly observed. My name is Wapela Bakharto, and I am the third speaker for the opposition side, that is the Botswana team. The government seems to be skirting this question like the plague. Why exactly did Zambia end corporal punishment 20 years ago and still hasn't brought it back? That is a question that they have been avoiding this entire debate and they do not seem willing to respond. In addition, it seems as if the second speaker from the government agrees with our stand. The third speaker agrees with our stand. And I quote, she says it creates a shock sector. This means that they agree with us because obviously using corporal punishment on students will create trauma, especially on a bully who might have gone through trauma from home and decides to release it on another student. Obviously, this means that it will create a new vicious cycle of trauma over and over again. In addition, why is the government trying to solve violence with violence? That is nothing but logical.
POI from Zambia accepted.
Ladies and gentlemen of the auditorium, they keep on asking us about why our government has not brought back corporal punishment. But ladies and gentlemen, we are not our government. We are simply students and we are speaking for ourselves. So you can't necessarily expect us to answer that question. Stop confusing us. Second of all, we are only looking at the bad, so horrible reformation of corporal punishment. Corporal punishment isn't just battling and bruising someone. Corporal punishment can also be kneeling down or raising your hands up for a long period of time. What type of traumatic stress?
Your time is up.
For bullying your friends.
The fact that the government side was so quick to deny the people that they're representing is very, very hilarious. In continuation, M.K. Gandhi has stated that an eye for an eye and an eye for an eye will leave the whole world blind. Why is the government trying to solve violence with violence? Already as it is. The United Nations Children's Convention on the Rights of the Child clearly stated that corporal punishment is a crime. And I quote, Countries are legally bound to an agreement that states that the basic rights of the child include protection from violence, abuse, neglect, and an education that enables children to reach their full potential. Obviously, corporal punishment involves inflicting pain on a person. Isn't that, my friends, a clear violation of an agreed international document?
Points of information, Mr. Chairperson, sir.
In addition, it creates a negative school environment.
1 minute.
It creates a
point of information.
It creates a negative school environment as it creates an atmosphere of fear. Students will always be afraid of how to express themselves, though, like especially bullies. If bullies
point of information,
they are part of the school community. If they go through fear, if they go through this trauma that is caused by corporal punishment, obviously they'll not be able to express themselves. Obviously they'll not be able to reach their full potential. And obviously fear is not an appropriate. It is not a conducive environment for learning, as multiple studies have shown that anxiety and fear can cause the grades of students to go down. And lastly but not least, it can lead to inconsistency and favoritism in punishment. How can we be sure that the punishment
point of information, Mr. Chair,
not accepted?
If the bully is someone who is favored by the school, then and a student who is not favored by the school comes up and complains of bullying by the one who is favored, the one who is favored by the school will leave their scot-free or will get very light punishment. So how can you be sure, how can you determine that they have received the same
Time is up. Time is up. Botswana, time is up. Time is up. Please, Zambia, remember that you cannot raise a point of information in the last or first minute of the speaker speaking. Now we'll go back to Zambia with the final speaker and summarizer. You have 4 minutes.
The immediate aim of corporal punishment is to halt the offense, prevent its reoccurrence, and set examples for others. I, Rashford Milambo, come from the Republic of Zambia to strongly propose to the motion that states, as I quote, "This House believes that corporal punishment should be administered to all students who engage in bullying, including cyberbullying at school." End of quote. Now, before I raise my points, allow me to acknowledge the presence of all faculty members in this August House, from the chairperson to the timekeeper, by simply saying, all protocols be highly observed. Rebuttals. Members of this auditorium, what we have to understand is that corporal punishment is not violence. It can be also moderate spanking. It can be kneeling down. It can even be locking a person up in a room. Tell me if that is also a form of corporal punishment. Will the person undergo mental health issues? Certainly not. This will give a person a sense of belonging, that what he or she is doing is incorrect or wrong. Next, let's look at Zambia. Ever since corporal punishment was abolished in Zambia, results in students have gone down, passing levels have gone down, and what has happened? Increased risk of crimes. Crimes have increased in the Republic of Zambia. You are seeing crimes of drug abuse, you are seeing crimes of bullying, cyberbullying increasing, and our law does not accept that. But ever since corporal punishment was there, this was not happening. This shows that corporal punishment is actually important. If we look at Botswana, it states that in Botswana, corporal punishment of children is lawful, despite recommendations to prohibit it by a committee by the right information of UPR of Zimbabwe. Members of this auditorium, corporal punishment is not actually that big.
POI from Botswana accepted. May the speaker pause?
Corporal punishment is still allowed in our schools, and yet there are very, very high cases of vandalism, crime, and substance abuse.
Members of this auditorium, I said it is lawful, and I've got evidence to this. If the information that I'm quoting is wrong, allow me to give UNESCO to verify this information. Next, allow me to talk about corporal punishment including kneeling on the floor, members of this auditorium. And we're not debating on something that is about traumatic images or maybe even traumatic disorders, members of this auditorium. We're looking at corporal punishment actually being helpful. Let's look at the olden days, members of this auditorium. In the 20th century, in the 19th century, why is it that cases of bullying and cyberbullying were low? It's not because we didn't have social media back then, but it's because of corporal punishment. Let's understand its background. Corporal punishment can only be taken severe if the person has exaggerated or is actually having hate to the bully, and this is not allowed. If corporal punishment exceeds to a level of a person being actually bruised, the person who is undergoing that corporal punishment can sue that person. But the corporal punishment that we are looking at is merely kneeling on the floor, even lifting up your hand for a long period of time, or even just a slap, a mere slap, that will give the person a sense of belonging, members of this auditorium. This used to happen in the olden ages. And now that we live in the 21st century, they're going to give us this silver platter of They're going to give us this silver platter of corporal punishment not being allowed. We're going to become soft. We're going to become indisciplined. We're not going to listen to parents, teachers, elders, or even officials, members of this auditorium. But if corporal punishment is there in homes, in schools, in officials, then we're going to have a better nation of lack of bullying, members of this auditorium.
1 minute.
Because members of this auditorium, the saying says that once bitten, twice shy. The moment corporal punishment has been undergone by you, you actually have that sense of belonging to not actually commit it again. Next, it also relieves the victims of bullying. When a victim of bullying sees that the other person has undergone corporal punishment, he will be safe, he will feel remorse, and you actually realize that if I do it, I also undergo the same. This is why corporal punishment is important, members of this auditorium. With these few but valid points, I'd like to say I rest my case.
Thank you, Zambia. And now we invite the last speaker to summarize from the opposition.
All protocol highly observed. My name is Wame Ramadia, and I am here to actually, one could say, state the obvious on why our team should win, as our proposition has failed to prove a point on why we should bring back corporal punishment to our schools. Our proposition, as the third speaker has mentioned, they said it was a quick way of disciplining students. We should consider on how everything has a foundation. The reason that student may be acting out is because they're going through something that is much more deep-rooted. So are you encouraging solving violence with violence, which could lead to a risking escalation of bullying, than rather talking to the student, which would help them more? Providing a conducive environment for these students will help them flourish to know how to deal with that situations, rather and much more better than solving violence with violence. As MK Gandhi has already stated by my second speaker,
information directed to you, Mr. Chair.
POI accepted from Zambia.
Members of this auditorium, let's get facts right. As we were saying, corporal punishment is not dealing violence with violence. Corporal punishment can even give a pupil or a student time out. That is corporal punishment, and we've got evidence on that. But they are saying it's violence with violence. It is not violence. It is actually a mere punishment. If it actually turns to violence, the person who's actually committing that corporal punishment will be locked up. That is the law that we are supposed to follow. And that is the law that has been exhibited.
The time is up. The time is back to Botswana.
Here you have done no extensive research on your motion. You cannot say that giving time out to a student is corporal punishment. No, corporal punishment is administering pain, and you cannot say giving a small hit to a student is not significant. That you cannot sugarcoat inflicting pain onto a student. Punishment is inflicting
point of information, Mr. Chairman,
in order to correct behavior. You cannot correct behavior wrong behavior with wrong behavior. No. And we have to take into account how students spend most of their time at school, and school is where a student learns how to interact with people. And using corporal punishment to amend bullying is just teaching students to handle life situations or to approach
point of information, Mr. Chairman,
using violence instead of teaching them life.
POI accepted from Zambia.
Ladies and gentlemen of this auditorium, what the current speaker just said is that if we beat a bully, he or she will resolve violence with violence. But ladies and gentlemen, a child who, when you beat them after bullying, says that this is right, is simply choosing to be slow and does not appreciate or does not understand the consequences of their actions and does not understand why you are doing such a thing. That child is just choosing to be slow, ladies and gentlemen. If my mother slaps me for kicking my baby brother, you think that I will start thinking that kicking my baby brother is right? I think not.
It is better to talk to students and provide a conducive environment rather than hitting them and giving them no reason or whatsoever foundation on why you are hitting them. Corporal punishment just creates this toxicity, this toxic environment, which is inconducive for students to live in. And as I was saying, that we could do, you can use alternative approaches of dealing with bullying. There are more effective and human methods. Are you guys really justifying treating our people, human beings, as animals? No. We have to realize that we are here in the 21st century. Your country, your government has realized the importance of abolishing this inhuman method called corporal punishment, because they have realized that it's not effective, and rather it's very inhuman. Treating students that have been involved in issues of bullying like criminals,
you have 1 minute,
may encourage the behavior rather than stopping it. And other alternatives may be carried out to rebuke such behavior, like therapy. Therapy has been proven countless times to be more effective than hitting a student. And we have alternative methods such as community service, a time to allow these students to reflect on their actions and to avoid them once more. And we should also look at how this has a risk of escalation. You cannot hit another child. And if you hit a bully, obviously they're going to retaliate and say, oh, this person snitched on me, I'm going to go back and hit them. You are not combating bullying, rather you are encouraging it.
Time up, Botswana. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to both Zambia and Botswana for that rigorous debate. It brings us to the end of the semi-finals, and we'll give the judges 3 minutes. It's 3 minutes, okay? 3 minutes to tell us, compile the winners for the semi-finals.
You know this girl. You've seen her before, playing in the street with friends, buying vegetables at the market, walking to school. She is any one of more than 360 million adolescents and young people living in sub-Saharan Africa. Like any other young person, she has the right to grow up safe and healthy. Yet many adolescent girls and boys in sub-Saharan Africa lack the basic knowledge and skills they need to pursue healthy relationships and protect themselves. This can affect their lives and futures.
Right after high school, I got pregnant.
I did not know what was happening with me.
Sub-Saharan Africa has the highest rate of teenage pregnancies in the world. Over 50% of young women aged 15 to 19 don't know when in their menstrual cycle they are most likely to become pregnant. And 6 out of 10 adolescents lack basic knowledge about HIV.
How do we actually empower people with skills and information so that they can make informed choices?
By learning about their bodies and relationships in the classroom, and by having access to sexual and reproductive health services adapted to their needs, adolescent girls and boys can be better prepared to make healthier decisions. That's why UNESCO's O3 and O3+ program is supporting countries to empower adolescents and young people with accurate knowledge about their health and well-being. Developed in collaboration with experts, parents, religious and traditional leaders, and young people themselves, the O3 program is giving adolescents in sub-Saharan Africa a chance to gain knowledge and skills that can protect them from HIV, early and unintended pregnancy, and gender-based violence. So far, 34 million young people across sub-Saharan Africa have received accurate information about their health and well-being from 400,000 trained teachers, equipped with transformative values, accurate knowledge, and a learner-centered approach. These teachers have also become role models for healthier social and gender relations.
The men's programs are discussing a number of issues, including how we must treat women as human beings, how young boys must respect young girls.
But this important work can't just be left to the classroom. Through the O3 programs, 19 countries are implementing parent-child communication programs, and thousands of parents are having open and honest conversations with their children about their health and well-being, strengthening trust and support within families.
I have 2 girls, so if I don't want to talk about these matters, I'll be directly affected.
Communities play a key role too, especially when harmful gender norms, teenage pregnancy, early and child marriage, and female genital mutilation continue to threaten girls' education and health.
If we have proper policies, but we don't have the families involved, the community and the education sector involved, the ecosystem will not be complete.
Through the O3 program, 42 million community members have been engaged on work around keeping girls in school.
We need to do a lot of creating awareness to the community on the girl child.
When communities come together to create a shared vision that recognizes the dignity of all members of society, regardless of gender or age, change is possible. And young people are becoming change makers themselves, challenging harmful norms and shaping new narratives.
I urge families to support girl children if they go through this.
The O3 program is protecting the future of this girl and helping her make informed decisions, stay in school, and thrive. Together, we are transforming the lives of young people across sub-Saharan Africa. Stand with us so we can do even more for young people everywhere.
Amir is 10 and attends school in the Middle East. Instead of playing sports like the other boys, he prefers acting and writing poetry. Some of the boys laugh at him, telling him he's skinny and calling him a sissy. Things get worse when one of them picks on him. Soon, everyone is picking on him. Amir's teacher tells him it's a normal part of growing up. His father tells him to grow up and be a man. Around the world, 1 out of every 3 students is bullied by their peers. In many regions, physical bullying is the most common type of bullying, with 16% of bullied children saying they have been hit, kicked, shoved around, or locked in rooms. Far away, in Europe, 13-year-old Rani is experiencing a different kind of bullying. She recently moved there from Asia with her family. It feels as if her world has been turned upside down. School is taught in a language she doesn't understand, and she hasn't made any friends. Things can't get any worse until someone posts a hurtful text about her on social media, telling her to go back to her own country. The cyberbullying gets worse. Ethnicity, nationality, or color is the second most common reason for bullying. The most common reason is physical appearance. 16-year-old Kaya in Southern Africa is bullied for the way she looks every day. Her parents are poor and can't afford to buy her shoes or a new uniform. Every day she walks kilometers to get to school. It's not easy, but her dream of being a doctor helps her to stay motivated. Lately, some of the boys from her school have been making life difficult. They wait for her along the path, crowding around her and making rude comments about the way she looks. When she tells them to leave her alone, they just laugh. Over 15% of bullied students say they were made fun of because of how their face or body looks. Many students, especially girls, experience violence based on their gender in and around school. As bullying continues, many victims don't know who to turn to and become isolated and depressed. They find it difficult to concentrate during lessons and start missing classes or drop out of school altogether. 42% feel like an outsider at school. 63% feel anxious for tests, even if they are well prepared and score lower than their peers. 45% of them give up on their dreams to pursue formal education after school. Countries cannot achieve inclusive and equitable quality education for all if learners are being bullied at school.
And we've got South Africa at 156 points. Semi-final 2, we've got Zambia at 145 points, and we've got Botswana at 155 points. Good luck.
All right, so that means South Africa and Botswana, right? Yeah. South Africa and Botswana will now go to the finals. The time now is 1:30. I believe you've been preparing already, so we'll go straight into it. Right, Botswana, are you okay with that? Now we're going to do a raffle to decide, or give 5 minutes. Okay, we'll give 5 minutes, but we'll do a raffle to decide who proposes and who opposes the motion.
Mr. Moderator, from Zambia, could we kindly hear the results again?
It's not on the program.
The microphone was breaking. Could we kindly hear the results again?
It says Botswana?
Yeah, I was saying it's already written then.
Yes, you're right. Thank you for informing us that. Yes, so winner semi-1, that South Africa will propose. South Africa will propose, and Botswana will oppose. Do you still need few
Mr.
minutes?
Moderator, could you kindly repeat the results again? The microphone was breaking.
No.
Mr. Moderator.
Okay, all right. So semi-final 1, the results are as follows. The winner of semi-1 is South Africa with 156 points. Zimbabwe scored 135 points. Semi-2, the winner is Botswana with 156 points, and Zambia scored 145 points. I hope that clarifies it. So the final will be between South Africa and Botswana. And South Africa will be proposing, and the opposition is Botswana. I hope that that is clear now. Okay, so you have 3 minutes to prepare. 3 minutes to prepare. Is that okay?
Mr. Moderator, why isn't the chief judge announcing the results?
The chief judge announced the results. I am reading them from the chief judge's script. The chief judge announced, but you did not hear the announcement.
You actually stated Zambia, and now you're saying Zimbabwe.
Sorry? Okay, the judge will come and announce again. Oh, you want the chief judge? Yeah. I doubt the results will change, but let's hear.
So the results are as follows. Semi-final 1, South Africa 156 points, Zimbabwe 135. Semi-final 2, Botswana 155 points, Zambia 145 points. Thank you.
Zambia, does that help?
The results have changed.
They can't change if you didn't hear them at first.
We've written them down with what you said. You said Zambia got 146 and Botswana got 156, but they have changed again. And again, in the first point, when the chief judge said, they said Zambia will be in the finals. So please clarify.
No, they did not say Zambia will be in the final. Unfortunately, I don't know where you heard that one. So the finals are between South Africa and Botswana.
All right. Thank you for the clarification, Mr. Moderator, sir.
You're welcome. 3 minutes to prepare is over. So please let me know if you're ready to go. Botswana, can I get an indication if you're ready to go? Just wave if you're ready to go, Botswana. 2 more minutes. Okay.
I'm age 16. I'm a Zambian and I'm in grade 9. I've been bullied by my classmates in the community because I'm pregnant.
Et j'ai été confrontée à un moment de ma scolarité au harcèlement homophobe plus particulièrement.
When I was in elementary school, first grade, because I looked boyish, when walking to the ladies' room, I was stopped by a teacher. I was just too timid to explain I am no boy. From then on, I got constantly mocked and laughed at till I finished elementary school.
My first experience on bullying is that when I was in grade 5, some girls always teased me and always took my food.
Pues había un compañero pobre, una forma de decirlo. Tenía pocos recursos económicos y pues mis otros compañeros se creían superiores solamente por tener mucho, más posibilidades.
Consequences of bullying include children and young people finding it difficult to concentrate in class, missing classes, avoiding school activities, playing truant, or dropping out of school altogether. The experience of being bullied has a demonstrable adverse impact on academic achievement and intellectual and personal development, as well as future education and employment prospects.
J'étais en CE2 et une bande de filles en avait après moi. Elles me détestaient. Elles me répétaient sans cesse que j'étais nulle, que j'étais bête, que j'étais moche. Et j'ai fini par y croire.
Conocido algunos casos de acoso escolar. Publicaba frases e incluso imágenes con contenido ofensivo hacia su compañera. Logramos utilizar este caso ya que había sido muy conocido por todos sus compañeros a través de las redes sociales. Logramos utilizarlo como base para orientarlos en base al respeto.
My daughter was a victim of bullying because she was pregnant. She received bullying from friends at school. We came together with teachers as well as the peers. We made them understand she's back in school and the bullying has stopped.
Welcome back to the final. Concern from Zambia? Zambia, can you please communicate your concern to one of the UNESCO colleagues and they will raise their concern? All right. For the final, this house believes that schools should be required to conduct mandatory mental health assessments on students to gauge the potential for violent behavior. This house believes that schools should be required to conduct mandatory mental health assessments on students to gauge the potential for violent behavior. I'll invite the government, South Africa, to open.
I'll be beginning my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel, the reason why we love local parenting in Proposition's world is because teachers are in the role of parents when parents are not there. This is to say that if I fall right now on the stage, my teachers are literally have a mandate to literally help me within that particular scenario. This is to say that the state trusts teachers in order to do what? Help the learners. We believe that we are in the benefit of the learners as side proposition. Consider yourselves greeted. For some setup, let's look at like what mandatory means. And we believe that mandatory is basically making something compulsory. This is to say that the state is most likely going to put a lot of pressure upon it, or like it's going to make it something that each school or each institution is going to make them do it at each and every cost. This is to say that South Africa is most likely going to instill this system towards public schools and private schools. Then the second thing that we need to also note is like what mental health assessments are going to look like. We believe that on our side of the house, this is going to look like psychologists usually being accessible inside schools towards learners in order to check their mental health. Probably within like a year, or every year they're going to check within like the health or like the mental health of that particular learner. Cool. Now let's get into my argumentation on why exactly we love this mandatory and why it should be there in the first place. We love the CSTL, which stands for Care Support for Teaching and Learning. This is to say that these different organizations such as the healthcare and like Childline that are actively accessible towards schools, and they work together in order to work for the children, right? This is to say that they work together in order to like help children out in like mental health and etc. We believe that South Africa is already failing in this because the drop level of children literally dropping out of school is very high. We believe that people literally drop out of school because they do not know the factors of why they're doing so in the first place. Now, valid proof of CSTL actively working because it's mandatory is USA. In the USA,
Botswana. Allowed.
Isn't dropping out of school a choice that is made by a rational human being?
Panel, it is made by a rational human being who has mental health issues. We believe that we literally have a better side on our side of the house, because when it is actively mandatory for these people to have CSTL within like a system, we are going to end up having high academic results, such as USA. But also, we need to note that private schools literally do this also well. They use the CSTL very well, because now we can see that private schools are literally achieving better than public schools in academics. This is to say that they care about the mental health of these particular children, and it is literally on a better level than when it is mandatory. This is to say that even if it's not affordable for you to literally have a psychologist, at least you have something to rely on. Also, secondly, we need to look at why it's good for us to have the system in the first place. It is good because we are not going to have a lot of adults after school who are literally a burden to the government. Panel, we have a lot of smart children we need to take care of. Thank you.
Time up. I'll invite the first speaker from the opposition to take the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Masama Udo from Botswana, and I'm the first speaker who disagrees with this motion that says that schools should be required to conduct mandatory mental health assessment on students to gauge their potential for violent behavior. Mandatory, according to the Oxford Learner's Dictionary, page 717, is something required by the law or compulsory. To gauge, according to the Cambridge Dictionary, is to make a judgment about something, usually about people's feelings. And violent behavior, according to Law Insider, means any act or threat of physical, verbal, or psychological aggression or the destruction of abuse of property by an individual. As the first speaker of South Africa said, it says that you are helping people, we are helping the students to stop the students who maybe are dropping out of school due to mental health problems. But don't you think that forcing help upon a person is what causes them to drop out of school in the first place? Like, you're restraining the student and you're putting the student in a cage that they cannot avoid because it is mandatory. It is a law that they have to attend to. It's something that they have to do, whether or not they like it. It's not a personal choice. It's a choice forced upon them. It also takes away their right to freedom, their right to choose what they want. A basic right that every child should be entitled to. You are taking away this choice because you say that you care about their mental health. But forcing help upon a person is something that damages a child's mental health. Like I am saying right now. A child, especially a school-age child, absorbs like sponge. They absorb and they do not, and forcing help upon them and forcing these beliefs upon them that they have these mental health issues that they didn't even know about. It increases their mental health problems and increases the rate of children who drop out of school because you're forcing the subject
may the speaker pause?
That I do not want and I do not choose.
May the speaker pause? POI accepted from South Africa.
Look, even in our worst case, where we're going to be forcing this help onto these individuals, we think eventually these children are going to want to be welcoming to the environment if they know that there's a social worker at school who constantly wants to know. At least we give them an opportunity on our side. On your side, there's nothing to help them, even if they want to.
Botswana, continue.
We never said that we don't offer them help. We offer them help. We're just saying don't make it mandatory. Don't force these children to attend these mental health assessments that they do not want to attend. You can take a hot to river, but you cannot force it to drink. You can take the hot to river and you can't force it to drink. You can take this child to this mental health assessment, but you cannot force them to comply. You cannot force them to be truthful to their psychologist. You cannot force them to be honest in this mental health assessment. So what we're doing here is inflicting more pain on these children that they already have from different life situations that they've been through. Are we saying that we're going to ignore all of this because we think that these people should, because we think that children, we are also avoiding and we are also violating their right to make their own choice. This is unethical and wrong. The same way you would not want to be forced a decision, you don't want. The same way one wouldn't want a decision to be forced upon them is the same way these children feel. You cannot force me to do something I do not want to do. And these mental health assessments come up with many, many times that most school children do not understand and most school children are in denial of. I rest my case.
Time up, Botswana, thank you so much. We'll go back to the government, to the second speaker.
I'll begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel, we actually find the problem of this debate being that the violent behavior rates are actually going higher and higher and higher in our schools. We find that a problem, and that's a problem that side opposition doesn't solve within their mechanism. Now, what is our mechanism? Our mechanism, as our first speaker has told you, is that these mental health assessments should be mandatory. Why? Because we don't want children to continuously having violent behaviors within schools, and we actually provide a better outcome. This better outcome is lower violent behavior rates. So now, what is the clash that I have identified here? Is that who is better for solving the problem? On side proposition here, at least we provide a mechanism. They clearly don't, and that's the reason why they lose. And especially note, if we make it mandatory, we're actually providing a more not taken.
POI from Botswana accepted. Go ahead.
Can the government please provide clear correlation between mental health assessments and performance and or less violent behaviors?
Listen, these mental health assessments and their link to actually violent behaviors is that we can monitor them. Unlike you guys can't even monitor them. Therefore, you are allowing schools to continuously have violent behaviors and people fighting in the school grounds. That's what we don't want, and that's what the panel shouldn't even want for our schools. The second clash here is who is better for engagement. We are better for engagement because we allow these learners to actually interact with these social workers. Unlike you guys don't even want social workers. How are you going to solve the main problem if you identified it? Now, what are the pragmatics or like the practicality of our mechanism?
Not accepted.
Okay.
1 minute, 2 minutes.
The practicality here is that we can curb this violence in schools, which we can see according to our mechanism. And secondly, that we can provide a much better solution. If the school can't even provide these social workers to be in the schools, let UNESCO do it. Since they have money to provide tents outside of hospitals, they can also provide these services in the schools. So I believe that in order for us to win, we show you why we have a tangible mechanism and why we have better outcomes within today's debate. Therefore, I think you should side with side proposition for today's debate. Thank you.
Thank you, government. We invite the second speaker from the opposition.
Greetings, Mr. Speaker and the House at Large. My name is Khaleta Masale-Sateri, and I am the second speaker from the opposition, Botswana. Mr. Speaker, if I was given the opportunity to stand up and talk about the situation, because this situation is a very, very, very sensitive situation, and firstly, invasion of privacy. The motion that states that this House believes that schools should be required to conduct mandatory mental health assessments on students to gauge potential for violent behavior. It's invasion of privacy. By allowing schools to intervene in student behavior without consent, the proposition will be the violation of this right, and as it requires students to share personal information without consent. Additionally, it could lead to stigmatization and discrimination against students who are identified as having mental health issues. I would also argue that this approach will not be effective in preventing violence, and it does not address the root cause of violence, such as poverty, inequality, and lack of opportunities. Mr. Speaker, like my first speaker from the opposition side has just stated, that you can take the horse to the river, but you cannot force it to drink water. Mr. Speaker, in my school here in Botswana, you're talking about students who are actually being assessed for violence and counseling.
POI accepted from South Africa.
What are you doing for the thirsty horse if you're not taking it to the river?
I would like to continue with my point and saying that maybe I can answer you when I'm telling you that here in Botswana, from primary school to senior school, we are offered programs where we are supposed to, our mental health is assessed, our life skills are assessed. However, I myself can actually lie that I save money. Well, I'm not saving money, and they're trying to teach me how to save money, and I'll be lying in order to look like the better person, in order not to look like I'm not mature enough. And another thing, I've faced situations whereby in my class, questions that affect mental health, where a student is asked if both your parents are part of your life, like your mother and your father are present. I find situations whereby this brings flashbacks for students, like when for example, me, myself, and when I grew up without a father, and I see a question that asks me if my father is in my life, it makes me have flashbacks. And doing this is more like you are taking me back there and making my mental health worse. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm not saying that. All I'm asking for the government is try to find different ways in order to approach children instead of making this mandatory. Mandatory means force, my government. It means force. I know the government is used to force. It's no excuse. But can you try a different approach for the first time, considering the mental, emotional feelings of students and the background of where they come from? And like that, I rest my case for my third speaker to elaborate further on what you can do instead of forcing children to do what? To discuss their past traumas. Thank you.
The third speaker from the government.
Ready to start in 3, 2, 1. Panel, if Bill Gates was able to come to Africa to stop women from exercising their womanhood, why can't he come here and give us resources to actually be able to counsel and gauge the potential of these individuals, right? I think from the get-go, we need to identify what the problem of today's debate is. I think on both sides, we can concede to the fact that mental health is such a big issue within our schools. But I'm going to show to you why on our side, we better solve the problem at large, right? So I think on both sides, the end goal for us is so that we can actually help these individuals. But what do we tell you is the solution on our side? We tell you that the solution here is to make it compulsory and mandatory for these healthcare screenings to take place, right? What does opposition tell you? They simply tell you just make these individuals choose. I think the problem that we have with them is their level of ignorance to the fact that individuals within society, when you don't make something compulsory, you don't actually put seriousness into the issue. If we're not making it a necessity for us to check you every single day, you're not going to care if you're depressed. You're not going to care if your mental health is taking a big toll on you. But lastly, then, what are the outcomes that we achieve on our side? We told you 3 things. Firstly, we think that ultimately the help that you get from your teachers is likely to be more sensitive to you as an individual, right? But secondly, then we allow for professionals to then be helping you on your side. But lastly, and I think the thing that we all want is to help these individuals. And what does opposition tell you? They tell you that when you're going to be asking these individuals questions, you're going to make them more traumatized. We think it's very important to note that you accepting your trauma and be able to get help is something that we value. We value the fact that you're not going to be crying on the inside.
POI from Botswana, POI from allowed.
Stated that it takes a very long time for us to adapt and accept our past traumas. So you bringing it back is not helping me, but me taking me back then, and it will be way too hard for me to adapt now because you brought something that happened in the past, and inflicting more scars to the scars that I've already faced.
I think on your side, the scars still remain and they're going to likely affect you when you're older. At least on our side, we bring it back to light, but we actually help you to deal with it. So I don't think that those scars are going to stay on our side when we help you immediately, right? But strategically then, why they're losing this debate? Firstly, I think they're failing to understand the obligation of schools to children. I think it's important to note that as your teachers, they're your parents. That means that they have a specific responsibility to make sure that if they see that children are dropping out of school because of drugs, because of anxiety, they then have the obligation to step in and actually help these children, right? But secondly then, this idea about the violation of rights. I don't think that this is something that is true because I think we're actually maintaining your right to get a better education, right? So us leaving you and saying we're not going to check you, I think when it affects your right to get proper education, that's when we step in. So we're actually justified in taking away whatever right they say that you have. Right? But lastly then, this idea of how mental health services actually work. They tell us here that you can lie and tell the therapist that, you know what, I'm fine. I think as a psychologist who's actually educated, you're able to tell when an individual is not okay, but also you're going to regularly check.
Time up. To the third speaker from the opposition. Botswana, over to you.
A wise man once said, "Do not count your eggs before they hatch." But the government side is very, very quick to announce victory. There's something called a false victory, my friends. I think they should be more informed about that. Before I go into my points, protocol is highly observed. My name is Wapela Baharatoga, and I am the third speaker for the government, for the opposition side, Botswana. The government are very, 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 very adamant on disregarding the motion. It seems as if they have barely even researched on the motion. One of the key terms of the motion are mandatory. So we as the opposition are against the mental health assessments being mandatory. Of course, they keep on claiming baselessly that we do not have any policies that were keeping them out of school. We're not saying that we do not want them completely in our school. We are clearly stating that we do not want them forced. As an alternative to having forced mental health assessments, we can have mental health seminars in which students are engaged on issues of mental health in a way that can be honest and transparent. But the government seems to be quick to force things. I guess they're more than ready to set dictatorships in schools. In addition, the first speaker had a contradiction. He stated that the first speaker has stated that mental health should be something that should be looked upon when it results in people getting hurt. Obviously, this is a big contradiction because some mental health disorders result in a person hurting themselves. So if the hurt isn't showing in society, are we going to leave the person to suffer in silence? Of course not. And again, they keep on claiming baselessly, and since they are stubborn as mules, they keep on claiming that we do not want these policies. And ladies and gentlemen, it is even better. Statistics have clearly shown that it is better when
POI accepted from government. May you please pause?
So, side opposition, tell me how you're going to identify a depressed donkey if you don't even have help to give them.
Opposition, go ahead.
The fact that they address human beings as donkeys is very, very hilarious to me. So them posing the question is very, very contradictory to the case. So reject.
1 minute remaining.
In addition, the motion that the government posed, that is making mental health assessments forced, is very, very illogical because of the resources. Ladies and gentlemen, every single economy has been badly hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. According to a study by Johns Hopkins University, every mental health facility has 100 beds, has one person who has one bed for 100 people who are in those facilities. Where does the government think that they will get the money to fund mental health tests on a large scale? Ladies and gentlemen, this is nothing but illogical. In addition, it is a clear disrespect. It is a clear violation of the right to personal freedom and choice. If they are quick to justify violating one right, that means it can open the gate to violating even more rights, which is nothing but unacceptable. To close my argument, they claim that...
Time up.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And now we go back to government with the closing argument. 4 minutes.
Okay, I'd like to begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. Hello, my name is Sianda Shabalala. I'm from South Africa, and I'm representing the reply or summary section of this debate. Now, before I get into essential basic summary of what this debate has essentially stipulated, I'd like to quote one of their speakers. You see, one of the speakers goes on to say that it is harder to face your past problems, hence why we ought to ignore them. We see this as a major red flag because this promotes the environment of cowardice. How are you helping individuals by encouraging them to stay fearful of their past trauma? Whereas you have a better side government who's actually taking on these problems, who's actually helping these students and combating these negative mental health connotations by actually facing your fears. So essentially, we have an opposition that would rather hide away from these problems, just like how they're running away from the motion of not accepted. Now we move on to what essentially is needed to win this debate. In order for either side to actually win this debate, we need to see which side actually goes in accordance to the motion of actually improving mental health, keyword early on, and how each side actually allocates and promotes better resources to improving this mental health for a much better substantial society in the long run, as well as in our current status quo. We also need to look at which side is actually creating a much more safer environment for not only the students, but also the teachers and other members of society as well. And you see that under all these points, we as the government do that within a pitch. So let's look at a thrash rebuttal. We have a side opposition that argues the autonomy of choice, saying that it is unfair to invade these learners' privacy. So are you telling me that you value invasion of privacy over actually helping these learners in the wrong one? Because we already substantiated and gave you a reason as to why making it mandatory actually helps these learners in the wrong one. Because if it's not mandatory, then therefore they're not going to view it with much seriousness. We had extensive explanation in both our first speech, second speech, and our third. So I don't know why side opposition is continuing to deny and push forth this claim. Then we come to the theme of who actually achieves the end goals in terms of invasion of privacy and in terms of actually conducing a better environment. We see this in regard to resources. They ask us how we're going to actually get these resources to actually fund these tests. We already made it clear that with various funds from the United Nations, as well as the CSTL, we're actually going to use these funds in a much more allocative way as opposed to trusting it with already failing governments. You'd rather have a side opposition that stays in the current status quo of chilling with your problems, whereas we have a proposition that actually pushes forth better resource management using these same resources from these various donors. We gave you a clear example of the Bill Gates example to which they continue to ignore, and I'm probably guessing they're going to continue to ignore.
POI accepted from team opposition.
Yes.
is it logical to compare a one-time event with a long-term strategy?
You see, that's the funny thing, because these mandatory challenges actually promote long-time benefits. Let's look at how these mental assessments simply achieve this, since you clearly didn't listen to our first, second, or third speech. We told you that by actually giving a much more substantive claim and actually testing these individuals early on, we actually are able to combat mental health issues much better in the future, as opposed to dealing with them later on without these tests. What does this mean? It means that students who are actually identified and tested now are actually going to be much more better members of society and actually waste less resources, as opposed to individuals who go by this process by choice, which later on results in these students coming, or learners or adults coming back to the same government with these mental health challenges, only now they're going to be further exacerbated. So you see, we do provide a long-term solution by actually combating it early on. So essentially, who's going to win this debate? The person or side who's going to win this debate is essentially a side that caters towards the majority, the students, and society, by conducing and having a much safer environment for all individuals in this case. Autonomy of choice do not matter if the resources, the end goals, as well as the sentiment of society are going to be capable in helping the students. Thank you.
Time up. And finally, we're going to invite team opposition for the closing remarks.
My name is Wamera Mugia, and I am the summarizer of our opposition. And I am here to clearly correct these baseless opinions that our proposition is giving. First of all, I would like to correct you guys. If you would care to carry out your research, maybe you would have noticed that promoting mental health is building a safe and supportive environment, as stated in our perspectives that have been given for this debate. And how are we going to create build a safe and supportive environment if we're forcing these students to reveal their secrets? I don't think, I wouldn't like it, and neither would you. And I'm not surprised that the government is a support of this motion. After all, they are close friends with the abuse of power. And first of all, I would like to clarify that you guys clearly did not listen to us. We never said we do not want any mental health assessment to be carried. Rather, we said we are against the idea of them being mandatory. My second speaker already stated that mandatory refers to forcing something. You cannot force someone to reveal such important and secretive information. As even at hospitals, doctors could lose the whole medicinal license if they were to dare to reveal even a small portion of patient medical issues.
Government accepted.
If you're so against the government, then on your side, who is actually going to help these individuals that actually choose to be part of this program?
Clearly you do not listen, because my lovely second speaker here stated that we could carry out seminars that aren't mandatory, but rather create a conducive, fun environment for students to be able to say out their challenges in a safe environment, rather than forcing, as my lovely opposition here stated, that you can take a donkey to the river, but you cannot force that donkey. Oh, sorry. I have noticed that they love, our government loves putting words in our mouths.
COI accepted.
You think if it wasn't mandatory for students to come to school, less people would actually come?
That is a whole completely different issue. How could you compare attendance to mental health? We have to see that the reason that such high death rates, high suicide rates is what mental health, not attendance. So please carry out your research more next time. I have seen that our government loves putting words in our mouth. Maybe it's because they do not have a substantial words themselves. And if I remember correctly, you guys said that we do not want to carry out mental health assessments. We never said that. So please learn to listen next time. As my first speaker stated, that this creates an invasion of privacy. And human rights. How are you helping learners by making them feel like outcasts?
You have to realize that this would provide and promote an environment of stigmatization. There would be social classes of, well, the more healthy students and the more less students with less deteriorated mental health. This is not helping. It's just causing a worse impact. And as my third speaker stated, that this is unethical. It is stated and proven that for tests to be carried out on large amounts of people like a school, it is seen as unethical. So this whole motion is a violation of not one, but two human rights. Are we saying that for students to attend school, we have to violate their human rights? Are we saying for students to acquire knowledge and information, we have to violate their human rights? Are we simply implying that every student that has mental health issues is violent? You are judging them. You are judging someone that you don't even know, someone that you haven't even gotten to know off of the results. Just because someone may have anxiety or OCD does not immediately mean that they are going to hurt their neighbor.
Time up. Time up.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you and congratulations to all the countries, all the teams that debated today the International Day Against Violence and Bullying, including cyberbullying in the school setting. And the motion, the theme for this year is promoting mental health, building safe and supportive environments. This is an international day that happens every first Thursday of November. And today it falls on the 2nd of November. We have had debates and debaters from Eswatini, Zimbabwe, South Africa, Botswana, Zambia, and Uganda engaging in rigorous debate, and we really appreciate, particularly for the short time you had, all of you, to prepare for this debate. You prepared in less than a week, in a few days, and you've been able to deliver exceptionally well. So I'll give time now to the judge. Yeah, let's give the students a round of applause. And indeed, we hope that you are proud of yourselves. You did exceptionally well. And maybe in the future, this could be an in-person debate where we all gather in one place and meet face to face. I'll give time to the judges to... Done. Okay. The judges are done. The lunch is waiting. So I'll invite the Chief Justice, who Zambia really wants